Namaste, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. A very warm welcome to Weekend with Wisdom session. Let us begin this session with a prayer. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namani Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Today is the second part of our Spirituality Simplified talk series delivered by Anand Chaitanya ji, joining us from Chennai Mission Chennai. Namaste, Hari Om, Anand ji, thank you for joining us. Let me quickly brief all the audience who have joined us only today about the topic. This is a two-part series. It's an overview of spiritual principles in the life of a seeker that brings the wisdom of Vedanta in a simple and relatable way through metaphors and analogies. The aim is to emphasize the synergy of vision and action for inner transformation. Before I hand over the session to Anand, let me take this opportunity to introduce him. A soft-spoken and popular leader among the youth, Anand, as he is fondly known, currently resides in Chennai Mission Chennai. He currently holds the position of All India Chennai Yuva Kendra National Council member. Chennai Yuva Kendra is the youth wing of Chennai Mission. Brahmachari Anand Chaitanya ji also holds the distinction of conducting over 100 workshops in different states across schools, colleges, corporate offices, etc. on transforming Indians to transform India and created a movement in the course of self-transformation to achieve national transformation. Over the years, he has traveled to a few countries to give talks on Vedanta and has conducted several workshops. He is an admirable speaker and delivers talks in English and Malayalam. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation once again, Anand. I request the viewers to post your questions in the Q&A box, and Anand will be taking a few of them towards the end of the session. I now request you to take over this session.
Thank you. Hari Om, Shri. Hari Om, Namaskar to everyone. Hari Om. Hope you are all fine, healthy. Let's start with a short prayer. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Samasta Jana Kalyane, Niratam Karunamayam, Namami Chinmayam Devam, Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram, Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. We'll quickly go through what we have discussed yesterday. We were discussing about this chart called BMI chart, Body, Mind, Intellect chart, which was developed by Puja Swami Chinmayananda ji, who's a founder of Chinmaya Mission, to make this profound spiritual principles much easier so that we can connect us to the deeper aspects of life. So this chart is what I am, what you are, and it explains how we function, and it explains what is the goal to be achieved. So all these things can be connected to this chart. So we were discussing this, we saw that in detail yesterday. But before we get into the topic of today, which is a continuity of yesterday, we'll just quickly go through it if someone new have come for their benefit. So every experience we have in this life, we gain this experience using three instruments or three equipment in our life. In Sanskrit, it is called Upadhi: body, mind, and intellect. In the chart, it is mentioned as BMI, body, mind, intellect. So now you know that it is not body mass index chart, it is BMI chart. And the B is the physical body, which we call it as gross body, Sthula Sharira. In Sanskrit, And M and I, my mind and intellect, manas and buddhi, is a sukshma sharira. And these are the three through which we connect to the world and gain experiences. And we give responses to the world also. Using the body, we perceive, we act. Whatever inputs are coming through the senses, we process that using the mind and intellect, and we give a response through the organs of action. These things we all know very, very well. This is not new for all of us. But when we are discussing this chart, I'm just making you aware what each alphabet stands for. And that M and I is the Sukshma Sharira, B is the Sthula Sharira, gross body and subtle body. Why gross? Which we can perceive through our senses is called gross, which is existing, but I'm not able to perceive through my senses is actually Sukshma. Okay, so that Sukshma Shariram is the mind and intellect, and this is BMI. And the next we discussed, where do I gain the experiences from? Because the experiencer using the equipment gains experiences, but what are the fields from which I gain an experience? One is the physical world of objects, which we see around. That is called O here, object. Everything, whatever I experience in like all that around me is come under this category objects. And E for emotions and T for thoughts, because I gain an experience from the emotional realm and the thought realm also. So these three function as a field of experience for me. For me, that experiencer. Now you also are having an experience. I am also having an experience. And this experience is gained from this field OET. And who is the experiencer is the, 1 minute. Yeah, perceiver, feeler, thinker. When I perceive something, I become the perceiver. When I feel, I become the feeler. When I think using my intellect, I become the thinker. So this perceiver, feeler, thinker is the individuality in me. There may be different types of emotions I feel, different kind of thoughts I entertain, inspiring or whatever may be the type of it. But I become the thinker. I have an identity. All these three put together is the experiencer. We call that as Jiva or the individual. Yeah. So now BMI is clear, body, mind, and intellect. PFT is clear, perceiver, feeler, thinker. OET is clear, the field of experience, which is called objects, emotions, and thoughts. So if you see, the whole life is a series of experiences where the experiencer is gaining different experiences using these upadhis. But actually, who is the perceiver, feeler, thinker? The Shastra says, yeah, before we go into it, we will explain the identity of little more. But before that, from where the thoughts come, or what is the cause because the body has taken birth, and from where the desires come and manifest in our intellect, and what are the source of it? So Shastra say there is something called Karana Sharira, the causal body from which the desires, the thoughts, everything come. And that is actually represented here as Vasana. So Vasana is the source from which all these desires arise. So what does Vasana mean? Vasana mean fragrance or the smell. So when we do something, or let us say when I eat a fruit, the smell of the fruit remains even after I cutting and eating the fruit. And that leftover impression is actually called vasana. So when we do an action with the identity that I am the perceiver, feeler, thinker, with doership, then what happens? That leaves an impression in me, and that impression is actually called vasana. Yeah. If I go and involve in a new activity which I liked a lot, and I want to repeat it, that means there is a small vasana has formed. When I do it again and again, it becomes habitual, and that creates a strong vasanas. And even these vasanas are still existing even after our lifespan, meaning the life of the time what our physical body has got. Even the vasanas are existing, that will force us to have another physical body, and we come to take birth again. I know these ideas I am saying very fast. We have discussed this yesterday. So I'm just taking you through the points. So obviously the question will come, how do I reduce my vasanas? How do I not create new vasanas so that my thoughts will be less, desires will be less, and I will be able to experience more peace. So coming back again, this V is the vasanas, which is the karana sharira, the causal body, by which all the desires and thoughts arise. So this also we discussed yesterday, the cause. But the entire matter, the realm of matter, which we see as BMI, OET, everything is the realm of matter. And what enlivens that matter is the life, is a consciousness, or what gives sentiency to the matter is the life in us, the touch of life in us. We call it as Atma. And that is mentioned here as Sat Chit Anand. So the whole realm of body, mind, and intellect, Shankaracharya says in Tattva Bodha textbook that it is matter, it has come out from matter, it's subtle matter, but it is insentient. But that insentient matter gets life because the divinity flows through it, or the touch of life is there in it. This concept is mentioned as Purusha expressing through Prakriti. Okay. Now, when the life, the divinity, flows through the body, mind, and intellect, the perceiver, feeler, thinker comes into existence, meaning there is this small I am the mind, I am the body, I am the intellect, this doership or this ownership of this little instruments come into existence. How? When the sun gets reflected in a bucket of water, there is a reflection gets formed because of the presence of water there. Like that, when the divinity flows through the body, mind, and intellect, each body, mind, and intellect, there is a reflection, there is a image formed, and that image is I am tall, I am short, I am gray with respect to the body, I am worried, I am excited with respect to the mind, so on and so forth. And I'm inspired, I am creative, I'm intelligent, I'm not so intelligent, I'm not confident with respect to the intellect. All these things are coming. And we say that I am with respect to the body, mind, and intellect. But actually the I is this pure consciousness, we call it as Atma, which is devoid the ownership of body, mind, and intellect, or identification of the body, mind, and intellect. So the whole idea is, the idea behind the spiritual practices is to regain my real identity, which is I am the objectless awareness, objectless existence, and the supreme bliss, which is called Sat Chit Ananda. Meaning, now there is a lot, now each time when we think or when we feel, everything is with respect to the body, mind, and intellect, meaning having that ownership in us. But when we are able to perceive things without the lens of this identification, body, mind, and intellect, I am the BMI, then what happens? We experience our real nature. This is a summary of what we have discussed yesterday. Now, yesterday we also discussed that the goal of life is to realize the real nature, which is I am pure consciousness, pure existence, and bliss, or the divinity. We call it as moksha. And the nature of the divinity is freedom, is unlimited freedom. If we analyze our own experiences, how limited we feel, Even though it is, we are excited, sometimes whatever we gain from this life, there is a lot of happiness we feel. But if we sit and analyze the nature of the happiness, we are not able to sustain it. We are not able to maintain it. And sometimes we understand that the value which I was giving for a particular type of happiness has come down again after a while, because the same experience, as someone rightly said, the happiness we experience is like a whip, is the gap between two whips. Two whip, one whip, next whip. In between, there's a gap is there, no? That's what actually, this is not a very pessimistic philosophy, but we sit and analyze about our own happinesses and our own great experiences. We understand that when we analyze little deeply, we say that it is limited. Of course, we are having happiness. We were happy, but it is so limited. So when there is an aspiration, there is an urge comes to have a higher state of freedom. There is, because I believe, because I have faith, because masters, the great masters and scriptures say that there is a state like that. Then I start aspiring for it. Then I go through the world, I experience happily everything, but I still understand that it is limited. But I aspire for the higher state of freedom. Of course, for this, we need to satisfy all our existing desires, which is actually pushing us. We need to satiate it, fulfill it to an extent, without allowing more and more to come. Because these desires have come with us, certain desires. Let us say, if I have to be an artist, and I want to express my art, it's a desire, right? There's nothing wrong in it. But to fulfill it in a dharmic way with the right attitude, and even to go beyond it, not just fulfilling the desire, to aspire for a higher state, is actually called moksha. It's actually called liberation. So moksha is not freedom from action, freedom in action. Freedom from action, then people misunderstand. Freedom in action is here and now. Whenever I am doing, when I am involving in other things, or whenever I am serving the world, I am completely free when I am act. So this is what Swamiji has said. Moksha is not freedom from action, but freedom in action. But how do I achieve the state? It is, Swamiji says, that Bhagavan says in Gita, renounce your ego and I will make you God, is the promise of the Lord. So the renouncing the ego, normally we use the term in terms of our pride and vanity. But here we discuss that it is the identification of the body and mind and intellect. So renounce this and we reach the divinity. The nature of the divinity is freedom and complete happiness. Sat Chit Ananda, we discussed. If this is the case, then we need to think, how do I reduce my ego, my doership? And the fuel of that is vasanas, from which the thoughts and desires arise. So how do I reduce it? How do I eliminate it? Now, this is the topic of today, which we'll see. But before that, before I get into it, it's so important for us to have the right knowledge and we operate from the right knowledge. Because without a right attitude, without knowledge, we cannot have right attitude. And without the right attitude, if we function, that will again and again make our identification with the limited, with the finite, much more stronger. So we'll see these small formulas. The one is, first is vision minus action. If I don't have that right knowledge to lead a life, but I keep on involving in different activities, performing different roles. Sorry, a vision is there. Meaning I have the vision, I have the knowledge, but if I don't act, I have all the knowledge, but I am not ready to put that knowledge into action, then that remains as pure imagination. I might have studied the entire Gita, 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga and everything. But if I'm not able to translate that knowledge into action, it's all only just imagination, I will not be able to achieve my goal. Second is action minus vision. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the right perception, right attitude to live, but I keep on acting, living, performing my roles as I want. That creates a lot of confusion. So now we just say that Hinduism is a way of life. It's not just a way of life. It is a philosophy which we have brought into the way of life. Philosophy lived is Hinduism. So it's not mere a way of life. It is a way of life based on view of life, philosophy, knowledge. All these great gurus, they have worked hard to bring out this aspect, to make people aware the value of life, how to live a life, what are the how we should live, see ourselves, how we should see our work, how we should see our relationships, the world around. This philosophy, this view of life is very much required, otherwise confusion comes. We have enough confusions. We have confusions which has gone to that level. The people say, I am spiritual, not religious. No, I'm saying there's one confusion. There's enough confusions there. Why? Because the right knowledge, right? You listen to the chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna says different, because he has got a lot of confusions in him, which Lord Krishna clears our next chapters. So action minus vision creates confusion. Vision plus action creates transformation. So whenever we understand something deeply, or when we hear something, when we think over it, we reflect upon it, and we bring that to our action level, then we transform. Not all of a sudden, but there is a change happens in us. And then when we sustain it, we are in the path of transformation. So this is to show how important it is to understand, to gather knowledge about ourselves through the scriptures, through satsangs, through healthy discussions between us, and the necessity of bringing that into our action. This is why we have given this topic as spirituality simplified through vision and action. This was Hinduism. Our society is completely based on knowledge traditions. If you see, there are different knowledge traditions we have. Not only the so-called sacred, but the secular also. We had knowledge. We have gathered enough knowledge about the world also. And we brought out this way of life, which is completely based on knowledge. And that actually helped us to transform. So these three formulas are so important as far as I am concerned, because all of us will go through these three stages. Sometimes we know something, but we struggle to practice. Then we just, in the realm of imagination, we act, then we realize, yeah, it should not have been acted like this. I should have better inputs with me. Confusion. But when we invoke the higher in us always, and with the right perspective, when we act, we are in the path of transformation. Now, again, I come back to the goal of life, which we said as happiness, because the entire transformation should make us happy, to keep us on the path of happiness, and to take us the culmination of happiness, which is the Shastra says as Paramananda Prapti. Everyone's goal is Paramananda Prapti, Atyandika Dukkha Nivritti. No one wants sorrow. All of us want everlasting happiness. And that's our natural state. We all want to go to that happiness state. And I'm sure you would have heard this, that this is what we all want, happiness. But how do we keep ourselves throughout in the journey, as we evolve, also happy, and the goal becomes a culmination of the journey? So how do we keep ourselves pursue in everything through the path, in the path of happiness, and attain that whatever we have discussed as a goal of life, Paramananda Prapti? How do we do it? So it says, the Shastra says, it is mind-body alignment. Whenever my body, whenever my mind and intellect are aligned, perfectly integrated, which are together, all of them, all these three have same demands, and all of them function as one unit, then I will be happy. I am happy. But when these three are integrated, intellect is asking something, but the mind is feeling something else, and the body is doing something else, then I feel sorrow. I don't feel happiness. So let's take an example of an artist. When an artist forgets himself and completely engrossed in the painting, what he does, his intellect is so clear that vision, the image, what he has to bring out to the canvas is very clear in him. He experienced that balanced feeling, steady mind also, and his hands, his brush is moving as he wants. So when the three are there together functioning as one unit, the person is happy, and the whatever that person is bringing out, that actions also will have that beauty. But when a person is disintegrated, in the sense the mind is feeling differently, but the intellect is actually demanding something else, the person, we call it as disintegrated person, and that person experiences unhappiness. So whenever we are sorrowful, whenever something is disturbing us, we understand that what we want is something, what we feel is something. And whenever we do a spiritual practice, japa or meditation or going to the temple or attending a yajna, all these times when we observe ourselves, we say that our mind, body, intellect, or BMI, here mentioned as mind-body alignment happens, and we are there, fully there. So we are fully there, meaning all my equipment I use in the right way to invest there. So the part, whenever people, they say sadhana or tapas or any spiritual practice, all these times we see that we are fully there, we are completely aligned. The best in us come out when we have this integration of these three. Now, this can be shown in a small chart here. We have vision, we have ambitions, goals, and everything. But when these three equipment are not integrated, then what happens? What comes out as inefficient action? And the result is, even though we gain something, we feel in emptiness. Why? Because the body, mind, and intellect is not together. Now, when we see, when it is together, when it is functioning for one thing, it is inspired by one goal, then what happens? Actions are more efficient, and there comes happiness. So this is a chart so that we will understand now, because what we are going to discuss next is based on this. So Swami Chinmayananji said there are three ways to integrate body, mind, and intellect. Yeah. One is changing the quality of the thoughts by inspired work. The second is reducing the quantity of the thoughts with having that higher love or devotion in our heart. The three is to give a completely new direction to the thoughts, understanding more about ourselves and looking within. These each one is separate path by itself. But as a beginner, we can actually practice all the three. We'll be practicing all the three. But when each one can be exclusively dedicated and pursued. We'll discuss that about. But these three, changing the quality of thoughts, reducing the quantity of thoughts, and giving a new direction to the thoughts, is the way to integrate the body, mind, and intellect, and to have happiness by living, and to reach the goal of happiness. Yeah. So let's discuss changing the quality of the thoughts, which is called inspired work. Now, all of us have to work, no doubt about it, because we all perform different roles. We lead a life, professional life, and we perform different roles according to our positions. But all the roles, all the duties, what we are performing. But if we are performing from a highly inspired mind, why? Because the very goal for what I am doing, the work is really inspiring me, then what happens? Then automatically the quality of the thoughts change in my mind, because always the thoughts with a higher quality flow in our mind. Why? Because I'm inspired by some higher cause. It can be anything, serving the nation, or serving the nature, or dedicating everything to the Lord, or I'm serving an organization, or I'm serving a guru. But when a higher cause comes, a higher goal comes in our life, we become inspired, and all that, whatever we are doing, will be a dedication to that higher goal. And those dedicated activities will have, obviously will have good results. But not only that, our thoughts constantly flow with higher quality, with inspired thoughts flow, and we become integrated. So a person who is inspired, a person is pursuing a higher goal, will be always integrated, and the person will be happy, because it is an inspiration which is driving that person towards the goal. So this, we can see that our freedom fighters, when they were fighting for our freedom, for our nation, they were highly inspired. Some of them, they were very clear, won't be there to see the goal, to see the freedom, the goal for which they were working, but still they inspired and they worked. And that service, or that self-dedicated activities, have brought them sufficient purity and sufficient integration, which is very much required. So higher the goal, greater the inspiration. So when a person is inspired, the qualities of the quality of thoughts change. There's a story. There was one king. He had to handle a lot of issues in his country. Quantity of work was so much, but he was thinking that I have to handle everything, I have to do everything. But after a point of time, he could not take it further. So he went to his Rajguru, his mentor, and he said, I want to quit. I don't want to continue. He said, what happened? There is too much I'm not able to do, and I want to quit, and I want to move away. And he offered his kingdom to his guru. So guru asked him, okay, I understand that you are not able to take the load of the work. What are you trying to do? What is your next plan? So he said, I'll take some money from the treasury, then I'll go and I'll start a business somewhere. He said, no, you have given me the whole nation. Now you cannot take anything from it, because now it's mine. He said, okay, I'll borrow money from someone and I'll start a new business somewhere. Then the guru asked, okay, that's good. What will you do after that? He said, I'll start and I'll expand. I'll do the business and I'll create more money, more resources, and I'll expand my business kingdom. He said, okay, then I'll expand and I'll make such a huge business world. That's what I'm going to do. So the master looked at him and said, someone has just now come and offered me something, a kingdom. Why don't you rule it? Anyhow, you're going to start something new and to create something big. Someone has just come and offered me a kingdom. Okay, so why don't you administrate it? That is the time king realized that he has to do, but it is not his kingdom. It is the master is saying to handle his kingdom back to given to the king, and now king has to rule the kingdom, thinking that it is master's. It is not his. It is the same work, but now he has to do that. It is master's. It is not his work, but it is a master's work. So easy to say the story, but the moment when I understand that I am actually doing for someone else, I am taking care of someone else, I'm doing it for a higher goal, we remain so inspired. And all that what is bothering us which is connected to, oh, I have to take up, I am doing so much of anxiety, tension, that realm comes down. So when we, especially to our younger generation, to our children and our younger generation, we give this a higher vision to them to keep always to have these kinds of thoughts of inspiration. What can I contribute for the nation? What can I contribute to a particular field? When that kind of ideas come into the from the younger ages onwards, then they become so inspired to learn something, to study something, to take up, and they look into themselves and say, in which field I can contribute? What is that area in life, so that I can choose, I can study, I can master, and then I can contribute. Now this, we don't keep them inspired. We don't give this idea how to remain inspired, how to aspire for something higher. Then what happens? Then they settle down with mediocre. But if we make a person understand, to look within and say that what is that field, or what is that area where you can master yourself and contribute to the world outside, choose that, study and master it, and bring out a change. Then we don't make everyone engineers and doctors or chartered accountants, but we help people to find what is there within them, and to be inspired and to contribute. If a person wants to be a teacher, there's nothing wrong in teaching. But to tell the nobility of the work and to be a very good teacher, to keep that person inspired as a teacher, is the job. And when a person is doing that, we say that that person is fulfilling his swadharma, his or her swadharma. So understanding myself, what are my inner inclinations, and to be inspired and to deliver the work is actually called work from inspiration. And when a person is performing work like that, the work becomes worship, and that the quality of the thoughts undergo a tremendous amount of change. What kind of change it undergo? The actions are always have a touch of higher goal, noble, selfless, and the attitude of service also come. How many people were still they are serving, but when we went through the COVID crisis, the people were not thinking about themselves. They were all came out and they all were contributing. So much of inspired work happened. And we see, like, I'm not saying a particular community, but the whole, especially in the health services field. So the work for inspiration is to deliver the work as a worship. And if we are able to learn, understand, and say that the entire work can be delivered as an expression of devotion to the Lord, then it would be such a great inspiration for all of us. And the work will be a visible expression of our devotion. We have enough examples if we look into our history. There is enough examples how the great Mahatmas worked and how they served the world with the devotion, with the bhakti. Because in their understanding, it was very clear that in everything and everywhere there is divinity is existing. It is the same Ishvara who has manifested as everything. And serving the world must be serving God. It was very clear to them. It's not just an idea accepted, but it is an idea assimilated. And they saw that there cannot be anything existing apart from the Lord, apart from Ishvara. It is He Himself as manifested. So when I serve the world, I'm actually serving Ishvara. This knowledge was very clear in them. And what happens? They become the role models, or they became the standard, or they set the standards how others should work. And in fact, Krishna re-emphasizes this to Arjuna. He says that in Bhagavad Gita, Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tattad devetaro janah sayad pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartade. A shreshta person, because A Shrestha person means someone who, there is somebody who is looking up to that person. There will be always someone will be looking up to the other person. When that person functions, he or she sets the standards for others to follow. So the Mahatmas and the great men and women lived here. They set the standards how we should live. So the highest inspiration is to serve the world as serving the Lord. So one of the statements in Chinmaya Mission pledge is, we believe that the service of our country is the service of Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is a devotion to the Supreme Self. So when this attitude comes, we become so inspired that the qualities, the thoughts undergo tremendous amount of change, and the person is so happy, so integrated. That person is preparing himself for the highest state of achievement, which is called moksha. It's a preparation stage. We also see nowadays the corporates, some of them, they're so hard Monday to Friday there, and the weekends they come and they involve in some kind of activity which they call it a service activity. They come and they go and take classes there also outside in the slums, or they involve themselves in some vegetable garden, or they prepare food and all those things. Maybe the weekends, when they involve in these kind of service activities, they find a better integration there. They find a better joy there than they work there Monday to Friday in their office. I'm not saying that because they may not, they say that we experience much more happiness. We want to unwind. So they come and they spend weekend here. I'm just telling you the integration into when they serve in two different areas. But if they are able to find a mind where they can actually be inspired and work throughout all the days, all the 7 days in the work, that will really purify them. How does this inspired work purify us? When we are working, that I am the doer, I am the perceiver, feeler, thinker, I am the doer, that identity's expression is less. I lift myself always to a higher realm when I am inspired. So what happens? The existing vasanas are not able to get expression, or it doesn't get expressed, and I remain focused. This is what actually happens within. I told all these selfish desires and all those things come from a realm of Karana Sharira. And when I'm inspired, I'm not giving a chance for that to express. And slowly I become purified. My mind becomes quiet and quiet and quiet. And that quieter mind will be ready to have the highest goal of life, which is we call as moksha. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, by karma yoga, by inspired work, you prepare yourself and you will be ready to have the knowledge about your true identity. Yeah. But Arjuna wants to run away from the work, and he wants to go and do something else which he is not supposed to do. So Krishna inspires him, no, work for my sake. Mam anusmara yudhyacha, he says. Yeah. I completely agree this. We need preparation. We need to think and tune ourselves, fine tune ourselves to have inspired work. But the first adjustment what we can do, or first tuning what we can do, is to involve whatever time available with us, let us say in a week, to use that time and to associate that with some inspired people, to inspired cause, and we give best in that. And slowly the Lord, we see the Ishvara will be giving us much more and more and more time, because that became our demand, and the whole universe, or that Ishvara, will start giving us bigger field and more time, a larger field and more time. So whatever available time is, if you are able to involve ourselves in the inspired work, integration happens. This is actually the karma yoga aspect of it. The next is altar of devotion. When we maintain our state of mind, when we always feel for God, when we always invoke the higher love, devotion in our mind, bhakti in our mind, when we are able to invoke that in our mind again and again, that state of mind, obviously the actions will have a touch of it. Yeah, because whenever love is directed to a higher thing, that is actually called bhakti. The emotions are same, but when I feel for something higher, can be nations, it can be nature or God, which is above me, then I say it is bhakti. So when a person is having love, naturally integration happens. The person's quantity of thoughts come down, because when love comes, the thought flow reduces. When bhakti comes, the agitations become less. And when that bhakti comes in our mind, in our heart, integration happens very naturally. This is bhakti yoga. Now, there were great Mahatmas who had great amount of bhakti in their heart. And through that bhakti, they reached the highest achievement, moksha. There are enough examples there in us. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you have bhakti in your heart, I will give you the buddhi yoga. I will give you the knowledge which is required for the liberation. But that, so there are people who are emotionally, the temperament will be emotional. But that emotions, if we are able to redirect to the Lord, to the God, in whichever form, that freedom is given in our culture, Ishta Devata, whichever form we worship, and we start invoking that deity in our heart again and again, then we perform all our role actions outside. That also bring necessary amount of integration, necessary amount of purity. This is quantity of thoughts, reducing the quantity of the thoughts. Now, it may sound very simple, but I just want to read a statement of Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji. It's easy to develop the head, but it is difficult to develop the heart. we can easily accept the idea of love, how to love other person, how to be harmonious in the relationship, everything. But the moment when we go and try to practice and implement that, we understand how difficult it is, yeah, to love someone. Why? Because sometimes where our heart doesn't cooperate. And this is this heart where we feel that love, higher love. But by practice, if you are able to invoke that higher love in us, devotion in us, our quantity of our thoughts reduce, agitations reduce, and the person finds necessary PMI integration, which is required for the final goal. So this is the next path. Yeah, we call it as Bhakti Yoga. With this, let me tell you one thing. Everything, whatever that person is doing here, whatever a person faces from life, whatever challenges, good things, bad things, everything is surrendered to the feet of the Lord here. A complete surrender is there. As a person walking, when a person walking in the sunlight, that ego is the shadow gets formed, right? The shadow is, let us say, considered as an ego. Ego will be there when we walk, or shadow will be there when we walk. So when we act without devotion, there can be an ego, where there can be a selfish thought. But a person falls surrender at the feet of the Lord when the person functions. How the shadow disappears, the ego disappears. So this is Bhakti Yoga. The third is giving a direction to the thoughts. Because there are some people who always want to think, to understand, to get a lot of clarity, because their temperament is slightly different. There's an intellectual temperament there. Thinking, very rational. All of us do think, there's no doubt about it, but there are some people who are very, very rational thinking, they are intellectual. Then for that person, when we try to understand ourselves more and more, gather more details about our own self, And thus giving a new direction to the thoughts will bring a lot of conviction and clarity, and that will bring necessary integration. To give you an example, let's say we use a logic. There is a logic which Shankaracharya discussed in Tattva Bodha textbook. Madiyatvena jnatam atmana bhavati, meaning whatever I know, whatever I am aware of, that cannot be me. Okay. Now let's say there's an object in front of me. There is a computer. I am aware about the computer. Since I am aware, it comes under the category of known, and I become the knower. So the known cannot be the knower. Okay, this is the rule. If I see, let us say, a lamp in front of me, the lamp is known, I am the knower. So the lamp is different from me. I am not the lamp. So if I perceive my body, the body is known, I am the knower. I can see my body, I can touch my body. So the body is known, I am the knower. I am very quiet now. My emotions are fine. I am emotionally good now. I know my emotions. So my emotions are known, I am the knower. I know what I am talking. I know my ideas. So I know my intellect. I know my intellect is functioning. So my intellect, my thoughts are known, I am knower. So body, emotions, thoughts, everything fall under the category of known, I am the knower. When these three are known, then I am the knower, then who am I? The question will come or not. Who am I? So I used my logic, then I gave a new direction to my thoughts. I think, and using this yukti logic, I start understanding more and more about myself. I listen, I read, then I reflect upon it, I think, then I abide in that knowledge. Yeah, this is called Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. I give a new direction to the entire idea of me. Actually, what am I doing? I am integrating myself and I am preparing myself for the higher knowledge, which is moksha, self-realization, or Atma Sakshatkar. Now, question will come. All the three can we do? Yeah, we have to love everybody. We need to have that bhakti and work. We need to inspire and work. But at the same time, we need to have sufficient knowledge also. We need to gather about ourselves. So all the three must be done. But one point of time it comes, it is exclusive, that we have to focus exclusively. So these are the three ways to integrate oneself. Even though we have discussed this knowledge and everything, there is one thing which Bhagavad Gita says we should have is when we live, to have that necessary integration, we need to have one thing, which is samatvam, which is balance of mind. So it's so important that we know all the knowledge, we practice it, we are inspired, but we are not able to maintain our balance, samatvam. Then we may lose our integration, we may lose our yoga. So Bhagavad Gita, for second chapter 248, verse 48 says, samatvam yoga uchyate. Everything you know, but be balanced. So we use a theory for it, which is called WOW theory, W-O-O-W. With or without, be fine. So important to have samatvam, balance of mind. And when we work inspired, or when we deliver actions with a lot of bhakti, or when we gather a lot of ideas, a new idea about ourselves, what our real identity is, then we work or live in this world outside. We are integrated, we are in yoga, but at the same time, we need to find balance also when we yoga, samatvam, the balance of mind, meaning not carried away by the likes and dislikes, by the pairs of opposites. Okay. So let's watch a video of Swami Chinmayanand, which he explains about balance of mind. So I share that. With this, we'll conclude. After this, maybe a few minutes, a few questions we can take up based on what we have discussed.
Sangham Tektva Dhananjaya. Here Dhananjaya is one of the titles given to Arjuna. Hey Dhananjaya, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Do all your functions, all your performances, all your actions centered in your ideal. Be it God or an ideal in the world outside. Hold on to it and act in the world outside. Siddhya siddhyoho samo bhutva. And once that you have entered into the field of action, don't you ever get fluttered by success or failure, siddhi or asiddhi. You act on, unperturbed by the various obstacles that might arise in your path. When Mother Ganges starts from the peaks of the Himalayas, she has already decided to go and reach Bay of Bengal. She is flowing down millions of gallons of water per minute. Do you think that her path is red carpeted? This way, please, this way? No. Every square inch there are obstructions. Small pebbles on the roadside, on the bed of the river, gives a beautiful melody, a songful sound from the water rumbling through it. When she meets a little obstacle, she gracefully jumps over it. If that obstacle is a little higher and she cannot jump over it, she doesn't stop there and despair, saying that, what can I do? She collects her white sari and goes around it, foam and lather around. Supposing she meets a range of mountains, she can't jump over it, she can't go around it. She doesn't, she giggles, takes it a joke, and rubbing her shoulder at the foot of the mountain, she goes, and she knows that the mountain cannot be for eternal time. It may be 1 mile or 2 miles, and where the mountain has ended, she turns around the mountain and again proceeds in the same direction that she had decided from the peak of the Himalayas. Ultimately, she pours herself into the Bay of Bengal and reaches all the 7 oceans of the world. Think. Be like Mother Ganges. You have a goal, no doubt. And the higher the goal, greater you must expect obstacles en route. But no obstacle should upset you. Meet them diligently. Where it can be jumped over, jump over. If you cannot, go around it. If you not, wait, proceed, and when the obstacle is ended, turn again and continue your direction. That is the way to achieve things. Achieving great things in life cannot happen by eating and sleeping. And then say that I am an unlucky man, nothing is happening, what can I do, Swamiji? Bad times have come, the stars are not all right, the local people are not supporting. It's all stupid excuses. A real man of action, he pursues his path and reaches his destined goal or determined goal by himself. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. And this samatvam, this equipoise of the mind, in the face of all obstacles in life, the ability to proceed towards your goal, unperturbed by whatever that happens around you, this stability of the mind, this equipoise in your inner personality, yoga uchyate. This is called yoga. Yoga doesn't mean that hanging on to your nose. or saying that no, I will take only vegetable food, or that I will not sleep in a bed. These are stupid outer expressions. Yoga is the inner equipoise of the mind. Cultivate it. No yogi, master, guru can give it to you in a packet. It is something that you must achieve yourself. Things will always happen, sixes and sevens. That's the nature of the world outside. In and through all those ups and downs, maintain and learn to maintain your balance, your equipoise. This samatvam yoga uchyate. Vyasa is very good in playing with words, very expressive. Here is one of the definitions, very famous definition of yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. How you reach it? Maybe various different yogas. But what is the goal of yoga? Is inner equipoise in the man, in the face of all calamitous situations, an ability to rise above them all and keep your inner balance, inner cool all the time. That is called yoga.
Hari Om Shri Hari. If we have any questions, we can take. Otherwise, we can conclude.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anandji. I request the viewers to post your questions in the Q&A box. We can try to take one or two questions before we conclude. We don't have the questions at the moment, Anandji.
Yeah, we can conclude.
Thank you so much. Yes, we can conclude. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk series on spirituality simplified. There is a lot to reflect on and study further, and I hope all of us, including the viewers, take this further in our own studies and in our own reflections.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Viewers, if you would like to receive frequent updates about further talks and sessions, please follow us on social media, Twitter and Facebook. With that, once again, thank you. Shri Guru Guru.